and I've been covering MLS. I used to write for the website in Spanish for Chivas USA. I used to be the beat writer at MLS, what is now MLS Soccer, and then I at OI, the publication that used to be also that used to belong to LA Times. I used to cover a lot of MLS there. I uh, I was here when Carlos El Pescadito Ruiz was, doing a lot of. He was having a lot of success with the Galaxy. I've been covering Chivas US. I covered Chivas USA since it started in 2004, and now LAFC. It's I'm beginning to feel a lot old when I see young people like you, Gio, and but it's just great to be able to watch all the players that have been here in Los Angeles, great players, and also being a part of history, watching a lot of championships from the Galaxy also. So I've been fortunate to be able to cover MLS in the last 16 years here in LA.
Yeah, so you've been pretty much the scene, right? You've grown essentially with the LA Galaxy. You know, you've been there with the times with David Beckham and all those things, right? You've seen so many things happen within the club, the ups and most recently the downs, right? Um, what's your take on it from when you first started covering the club and the league, and now where we're at right now, and how the league has exploded, and we're starting to get all these big name players coming here. Teams are starting to pop up, obviously, but it's starting to become just an American. Soccer is starting to become more of a brand throughout the country.
You know what? In 2004, Gio, when we wanted to interview a soccer player, like even Landon Donovan, even he was big time in 2004. But we would just go there to practice, and we wouldn't even see in some practices a PR person. So we would just go there and approach the player, and that just, I think it's just proves that just before it was a whole different league. We didn't have that much restrictions in the media, and it was more. I like it more because I could like relate and talk to players a lot easier. But now, ever since David Beckham came, the league changed a lot, and right now it's more, I think, more like corporate. Ever since David Beckham, like the whole league, the whole structure changed. But I see a more mature league. I see a better league with more teams, more. I think it's a lot more professional now, and just the stadiums are incredible. You see the LAFC stadium. I never imagined in my life that I was gonna be able to see a second team in LA so successful, and that just proves, I think, that the not only the league has matured, but I think the fans, the soccer fans in the US have also matured. And now you don't see, when you go to watch LAFC and the Galaxy, you don't see that many kids, from AYSO attending those matches. You see, you see more adults in those games, and I think it's a big sign that the league has been maturing, and it's only gonna get better.
Yeah, and that has to be just exciting, just to see how the league and how like teams like the LA Galaxy have grown, and teams like LFC, just came in within the last couple of years. Let me ask you, what's been your favorite memory with the LA Galaxy, covering the LA Galaxy?
Well, with the LA Galaxy, I think just seeing the beginning of the Galaxy, when I would go like to Corona, and Landon Donovan is there in a soccer clinic, which was like very you don't see those things these days. But he's and just being able to, like I said before, to be able to approach the player and talk to them like for half an hour, and be like a friend to them. But I've seen the Galaxy also when David Beckham came, and all the great players that have passed. with the LA Galaxy, and I think that's just seeing the history, all those championships that the team won with Donovan, with Beckham, with great players like Robbie Keane. Those are top level players, and also seeing, of course, the new team LAFC, how it has become a sensation in the league. I think those are two great moments that I'm really grateful for. Being here in LA and seeing those things.
Yeah, no, that has to be just amazing, just to be able to see, how the teams have grown, just with the championships and those big names that have come. Um, what obviously we know LA Galaxy this last year had a difficult year, right? And we also know, like, players like Chicharito also had a difficult year. How did you see? Obviously, you cover and you write for LA Times in Spanish, but how did you see like Chicharito's year last year, and then how did you cover it? Obviously, we know he went through some personal stuff now, but what were your thoughts about him last year and the performance he had?
It's just it's for me. It's just incredible. I can even when I think about Chicharito's last season, I just can't even believe it. Just the way that he couldn't, score a lot of goals to begin with, but not even that. We didn't see like a chemistry going on with the rest of the Galaxy players, and and this is coming from somebody that really loves Chicharito, that really loves like everything that he has done for the Mexican national team. I follow his career since the very beginning, the very beginning, and but I if you ask me last year in January, what do I think the season was going to be? Never in my life I would have thought that Chicharito was only going to score 2 goals. I think it's still a mystery what happened. I think we're going to know in a few more years what actually happened in that first year. I know there's personal problems, there's personal issues. I don't know what those personal issues were, but I think they're big, and eventually we're gonna know. But he also had fitness issues and many other things that are outside the soccer field. But I think we're still gonna know in the future what happened in that first season with Chicharito.
Yeah, obviously, I think one great thing then for him for this year is to redeem himself, right? We all know we love a great, like, comeback story, even of a player of his magnitude that had a very difficult year last year, and I think just going on to this year, I think there's, from what he's posted on his Instagram, you're right. We know he's posting his workouts. He's in shape. He looks a lot. He looks like he's lost a couple
Oh yeah,
pounds. So he really looks good and fit in a right. And I think you have to be optimistic if you're a Chicharito fan, or if you're an LA Galaxy fan, to what's the future to come, because I think that's the lowest he probably could have gone last year, like the worst he could have done. I think the only way is up at this point.
yeah, exactly. There's yeah. I think just seeing him train at Griffith Park, you see, almost every day he's posting things on social
I
media that
saw
he's
that you were
training.
there too.
Well, I live very close. I live in Hollywood, so it's very close from me. And I haven't seen him. I always that I see somebody like an athlete running.
You got to text him next time you
Yeah,
go.
I think it's Chicharito. But no, I'm really happy to see him that he's taking it more seriously. Something that he should have done in the first season, but it seems like he's a lot more fit. His mentality, I think it's there. I'm not a fan of him seeing, doing his like games, like gaming and all that stuff. I'm not really fan of those things. I think he can cut back on those things since the second season. But overall, I think he's gonna take it more seriously. But we can talk about, you know, uh, we can talk about him for a long time. But at the end of the day, Galaxy fans want goals, and that's the
Yep.
only way that we're gonna see if he actually has success or not. It is the wonderful thing about strikers that you have, in the amount of goals, you're gonna see how successful he is.
Yeah, and I think that's one way to redeem himself, right? To be able to come in and score those goals and actually get those wins for LA Galaxy this upcoming season. Whenever we expect the season to start April 3rd, 4th, that's what the league came out with. And spring and preseason start February 22nd, which is just 18 days away. And we also know that there's the MLS and the MLS. They're currently negotiating, and I think today they just announced MLS came out with a statement that they pushed the deadline a couple like 24 hours more. Um, and I think this is a great way to segue into that is what do you think about all this? The MLS threatened to lock out the players. Essentially, it comes down to extending the CBA to 2027, and that would be after the 2026 World Cup. The MLS would be able to get all that money for themselves, not necessarily split up the players. There's a lot of things that's being negotiated, but I think that's the gist of it. What do you make of all that?
I think it's just we're living, of course, in very difficult times. It's very, very hard to even know what's going to happen in 3 months in our personal lives. We don't even know how if we're going to have at the end of the year, if we're going to have fans at the stadium. I hope we do. But I think just not knowing what's going to happen in 3 months. I think it has to do it has to do with all those negotiations, because if you don't have fans at the stadiums, of course you're not going to have that amount of money, that amount of ticket sales, and that clearly affects what a player earns. It's not the same as playing with 22,000 people that are paying, I don't know, $50 to $100 a ticket than not getting the money. So I think it's really hard, and so that's why I think the CBA is gonna be more like short term. That's what I think, my personal opinion. But just seeing in the other leagues, I get to cover other leagues like baseball and NBA, and they all have the same problems. They don't they don't want to commit to huge salaries, and they want to make things in the short term, because they don't know exactly what's going to happen. They don't know exactly what is going to happen with the pandemic.
Yeah, and I think that makes it difficult. You made a great point. I mean, MLS is I think the only league in the U.S. only pro league that makes about 90% of their revenue from ticket game sales. Everything that happens within they don't have a big TV right contract like the NFL, the NBA. I think their TV contract deal with the ESPN and Fox Sports and Tune, I think it's only like $90 million combined, and that's not a lot, right? So I do see it from the MLS side, and also do see it from the player side. So hopefully we find out tomorrow what the details are, what happens, and if we're able, to start the season on time, or they push the deadline a little bit back, because I think we'll still got till like February 22nd, because that's initially when players are supposed to report, come in. I think if they don't have a deal tomorrow, then as of then I don't think the players can practice and they can go to the training
Yeah.
facility. I think that's what might happen. But nevertheless, I want to talk about another player. We had David Bingham today. I think today or yesterday, so I'm getting my days confused. But he posted his goodbye to the LA Galaxy and the fans. Just want to read a quote here. It says, LA, the time has come to move on to another challenge. We had our ups and downs through the last 3 years. We didn't reach our goals, and I can't help to feel like I'm leaving behind some unfinished business. Thank you to everyone who made LA feel like home from day one. End quote. Well, what are your thoughts about David Begum and obviously the team not picking up his option to come back this season, and his career with the LA Galaxy?
I think David Beckham for me was one of my favorites in the Galaxy. I like them. I think he he had a really good games where he saved the Galaxy from even like embarrassing defeats. But I know a lot of people don't like him also. So just by seeing that message, I think what I get from that message is when he says that he lives with unfinished business. I think that's the key word there, unfinished business, because a lot of people had a lot of hopes in the Galaxy, and and honestly, like the last few seasons, they have been, horrible, especially in the defense. The defense was I think the key factor for the Galaxy not having success in those seasons. And it's just a shame that David Bingham couldn't, at least made a MLS Cup final, or advance further in the playoffs. But I think he's a symbolic player in the Galaxy. But the LA Galaxy really has a big job. Greg Vanney really needs to um, get together, put together a really nice defense. And I think every defense starts with a good goalkeeper, somebody that everybody can trust.
Yeah, and then obviously we saw the signing of Jonathan Bond. He's coming from West Brom. Obviously, we know they have Jonathan Klinsmann. So it looks like those two are going to battle out for the goalkeeper position, right? And we're going to see who is going to be the number one, right? And I think you right now you have an open spot. You have someone that's coming from England coming out here. You obviously have Jonathan Bond. I mean, excuse me, Jonathan Klinsmann. Two Jonathans, going to get confused with the names there. I think it makes it very interesting, right, for Greg Vanney. I think you want that competition between those goalkeepers as well, right? Because we saw well, like you said, the defense. The defense at time was very vulnerable. Like a lot of people say, it wasn't last year. It wasn't David Bingham's fault. It wasn't the defense fault. And I think maybe this year we may find out with the new head coach and everything. Obviously, Guillermo was let go last season, so there's a lot of things. I mean, 2020 was not a good year for the LA Galaxy, or for anybody to say the least. But they really struggled, and I think now that you see Greg Vanney coming into the mix, you're going to start to see a lot more different pieces. A lot of people don't feel like there's been a lot more different, too many roster changes as of yet. But what are your overall takes of Greg Vanney? Obviously, he was with the LA Galaxy
I
as a
like the
player.
move. I actually worked with Greg Vanney. I used to do PR for Chivas USA, and I was there when he was the assistant coach of Robin Fraser. So I got to see he's really professional. I like the move of the Galaxy bringing him here, because I think what the Galaxy has needed in the last years is more identity. And if there's a team that has identity, I think it's the LA Galaxy, because they have championships, they have history, and Greg Vanney is one of those players, former players that had a lot of history with the Galaxy. And also, he's been a successful coach with Toronto. He has experience. He knows the city. He knows what the players live when they're off the field. And I think, and just seeing the coaching staff that he announced this week, I also work with Nick Teslov, a German assistant coach. He's also very professional, and just I think his group is really serious, and they know they're more the quiet kind, and I think they're gonna be working a lot, and I think this coach is gonna do a lot better for the Galaxy, and like you said, the defense, and we're gonna see what was wrong with the Galaxy last year, and I think it's gonna start with the defense. I think the defense is gonna get a lot better, starting with the goalkeeper, and we're definitely gonna see an improvement.
Yeah, talking about the coaching staff, they also announced Dan Calichman. Sorry, I apologize if I butcher his last name, terrible names. Nick Teslov as well. He's the LA Galaxy assistant coach, along with Dan. Jason Bent, he's also assistant coach. And then Kevin Hartman, who also played, was former goalkeeper for the LA Galaxy. He's going to be the goalkeeper coach. So I think what I like about these moves is you have former players, you have former, that understand the crest and know what the G's are about, right? I think that's what had been missing from the LA Galaxy these last few years. You didn't really have someone that was there that, or at least tell the players like, hey, that jersey that you're wearing, that crest on your chest, like, you have to give it all. Not saying that the players weren't, but I feel like there was a connection that wasn't there between the players, maybe the coaches and stuff. And then as soon as Greg Vanny comes in, he has an automatic connection with the team. You see the assistant coaches, they talk about when they used to play there in the early 2000s, 90s, and how it's an honor. And, they talk about all that. Just the vocabulary that they
Yeah,
use
yeah.
is so much more different than, the recent coaches. And you kind of just see that. And I think that's a way how fans could connect with the coaching staff, and then they pass on that to the players. And I think that's what had been missing for the LA Galaxy these last few years.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I really love hearing when Greg Bunny was introduced, when he was remembering the times where he was training at a parking lot in at the Rose Bowl. That those were hard times, not only for the players but for the leagues, for the teams. Everybody, they didn't take for granted things, and I think though Kalishman, Bunny, Harman, they know about those things. The players right now, they live. Men, some of them live in Beverly Hills. They live in the nice places. When the players before, they didn't have that life. So I think a lot of what the players have today, is that they take for granted things, and I think that's what has happened with the Galaxy. I think they need to go back to being humble and knowing that they haven't performed that well in the last seasons, and that they have a huge following, that they know what it means to win a championship, and that they're disappointed right now.
Yeah, and I think you just said it right. Just the humble part, right? It's just, if you don't have a connection of the early days, like how you mentioned, of going to the park and practicing. I think just having that connection with your head coach who lived through that and now comes, he's coaching you guys and knows how important it is. And I think just like the vocabulary, right? It changes everything and changes the perspective of, because we know around the world, players that come from Europe, that come from South America, whatever, they know the LA Galaxy are a big club, right? But if
Yeah.
I think in your day to day, if it's not treated like that, if you don't play like that, then I think the players don't really represent that on the field. And I think that's what we've seen the last few years, unfortunately. And I think that will change with Greg Vanny at the helm, and all the pieces that he's bringing here. I think we're gonna definitely see a different LA Galaxy in 2021.
And it was one of my favorite things about Zlatan Ibrahimovic, is that I bet that he will like treat the players here in MLS, that like they still haven't earned a lot of stuff in their careers, that they have to improve, that it's not enough just by playing in the LA Galaxy, that you can play in Europe, that you can do many things. And I think that's the thing that my favorite thing about Zlatan, that just the way he will behave, like 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 he comes from another world, that you shouldn't be satisfied or happy to be playing in this league, that you can do a lot better, and it's just I think a question of mentality.
Yeah, and I think when Slatan was with the LA Galaxy, it was amazing. I mean, I think I don't know if you ever had like a great experience with. I always did. Every time Slatan, talked with the media, it was a great time. He enjoyed talking to the media. He's one of the few players in the MLS. I know you cover NFL, NBA, but the MLS is a lot different than a lot of the pro leagues. As us covering as media. Um, because I've also covered MLB and all these
Hmm,
different
hmm,
leagues, but I
hmm.
think the MLS, they don't. I don't know if they don't let the players talk or the players don't want to talk, but I think that's some of the things that are missing, except for Zlatan. I think Zlatan was a real superstar. He understood that talking to the media is not necessarily just gonna is good, but it's gonna grow his brand. And I don't think he cared, right? Whatever anybody said about the media, right? And he was great. And I think
Oh yeah.
that's the only thing that MLS misses, having those type of players, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's a problem in MLS. I think it's a problem with the Galaxy, and also with LAC a little bit, because if you're the symbol in your team, if the key player in your team is Zlatan, and he's speaking, even when the team loses, that's leadership. But when I have a problem when Chicharito, when he just talks to the media twice a year, you know If he's the leader, if he's earning $7 million, he should talk to the media no matter what. If they lose or win. The same thing with Carlos Vela. We don't criticize that much Carlos Vela because he's scoring goals. He's the MVP of the league. But it's the same thing with him. If he's the leader in a team, they have to talk to the media. I cover Dodgers. I cover Lakers. LeBron talks to the media. How many times do you think
Every
in
day.
a year?
Oh man, probably 365. Every day.
And he's LeBron James.
Yeah.
He can go in any city in the world, and they'll recognize him. And Kershaw, he also talks to the media a lot more than Chicharito or Carlos Vela. And I think, and we had the same problem with Gio Dos Santos, who I really love, but I think just he wasn't a leader. And I think that's another problem that the Galaxy needs to fix. He needs leaders that are also an example of the field. One of the greatest players I think that has played in the league is Robbie Keane, and I really love just the way that he will just stand there. He doesn't even take a shower. He just stands there and just waits for the questions, even if the team loses 4-0 or they win 4-0. And I think that's I think just by those little things you can tell a lot about a player and also what he's going to be doing on the field.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I think both teams, both LAFC and LA Galaxy have experience with them. I've had the privilege to cover NBA teams, not as long as you in the MLB, and you said it right. When they lose or when they win, at least in American sports, that's what we're used to. That you need to talk to the media, and when you don't talk to the media, it looks like you're running away from something, right? It looks like you're afraid. Yeah. It comes across that. Not saying that they are, but that's how it comes across to us that have covered other leagues. The NBA, the biggest one I think in this country, in the NFL, like all the big name players talk to the media and address the media when they're losing. When they're winning and when they're going through those bumpy roads, that's when people want to hear from you. And I think when those players don't address the media, it really, I think, leaves kind of like a weird taste in your mouth, because you're like, why are they not talking?
Yeah, exactly. And especially when they're like the only, when there's only 2 or 3 big stars in a team, they should be able to talk. And that's what I get disappointed, because I think they should be more leaders, in that aspect.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. I'm with you on that. I think it does come across that way, that they may not be, not saying they're not leaders within their team, but it just doesn't publicly, it just doesn't pass the eye test from what we're used to and what we're accustomed, right? I think that's one of my criticisms too about the league and both teams. I think they should do something about having them talk, because I don't ever feel like any of us are asking any disrespectful questions or anything like that. Some tough questions, but I think it comes with the territory, right? And that's what it is. That's how it is, and that's what we're all accustomed. And I think also when you're not letting your star players talk and they're not on TV, I think that marketing wise, you're not, it doesn't help the league grow, especially when you're in the biggest market like LA.
And if you're spending that much money, $7 million, and also they're not 15-year-olds, they're grown men, they know better, and they should know what's the best thing that they should say when the team loses. But I just find it hard to believe it, and I think it's a little frustrating, but I think it also is a reflection of what happens also inside the field when they need people with character, to with guts, that they can get those results.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I really do hope that changes, because I've talked on here before with a couple of the guests, and I think that's just one of the biggest criticisms that we have of the teams and of the league, because it just it's just unfortunate that it happens. And I think it's a way. I know some players don't like talking to the media, but some players do. But I think that's just really one way of making your star player not look like a star, right? And it makes it tricky, right? And people want
in addition, and also, if you're a YouTuber, you want the big stars to talk. You can interview 10 people, 10 players, and they don't move the needle. But it's the same thing happens with me in the newspaper or in a website. You want you want the star player to talk. Otherwise, it doesn't help me or the team,
Yeah.
and or even the player.
Yeah, no, it makes it tricky. I know we can definitely hone in
Yeah.
on that, but let's talk about Jonathan Dos Santos. Obviously, he's played with the Mexican national team, and he always looks great when he plays with the Mexican national teams. But I think at times when he's played with the LA Galaxy, he hasn't had as much success. There's been a lot of injuries, and I know he just recently did an interview with your counterpart Jaed, and he talked about he thought about potentially retiring after last season because of his injuries. What do you think of Jonathan Dos Santos play with the LA Galaxy, and what do you think about his
I,
recent comments?
I think just his I think Jonathan Dos Santos has been the best signing in the Galaxy over the last recent signings, even more than Gio. Uh, in the national team, Gio Dos Santos was my favorite of like in the entire history. But ever since he came in MLS, I got really disappointed. Uh, just like Jonathan and Gio, their main I think disadvantages are injuries, like you said, and I think that has affected also Jonathan a lot in his career with the Galaxy. He could have done a lot more, and hopefully he gets better and healthier this year. But just history tells you that he's gonna suffer with injuries. But I think I was surprised when I heard that he was about thinking about retiring uh, because of his injuries. But it's just reminds you how short the career of a soccer player is, and especially Jonathan Dos Santos. I think he's very prone to injuries. But I think he's like Schelotto said in the last year. Jonathan is a very key player. He's one of the main players in the Galaxy. When he's not there, you can tell that he's not there. But I think he's gonna be obviously fundamental, very important in what happens with the Galaxy this year.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna be a key piece to start, right, especially right there in that midfield. We know how he can control that midfield and really, help out the team when it comes down to it. I think like the biggest criticism, it may
And
not even be a
uh-huh.
criticism, but it's unfortunate that he has so many injuries. Some players are just tend to be more injury prone than others, and I think that gets a little tricky. I know some fans may get upset, but at the end of the day, I feel like if you're not able to stay on the field, then at a certain point you may become a liability to the team because someone else could come in and use that spot. He's a DP player, right? I think that's
Yeah,
that's the biggest criticism is
and
because they
and
only got 3D players that they can use, and one of them is always injured. Then I
yeah,
think that's
and
that.
what it sucks is that I think he's out of all the players that I've seen from Europe come here. I think he's one of the ones that you can tell that he enjoys being in LA, that he's having fun, that he feels like an Angelino, and even when they play the LAFC, you can tell like he hates LAFC, and I think he has identified a lot with LA, and he's happy to be here. He already said that he wants to finish his career here, but I just hope that he continues to be healthy and that he's key to the Galaxy to be able to have a good season next year.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely be key for them. Now let's talk about Christian Pavone. There's been a lot of speculation. We know as of now, I've been told that the LA Galaxy are still interested in Christian Pavone. There's been a lot of things that been happening. There was a most recent offer. I think the LA Galaxy had sent a $6 million offer, but Boca Juniors had declined that most recent offer, and I think they're still playing, hardball with the LA Galaxy. I think the thing that surprised me too was that there was no real interest from European clubs for Christian Pavone in this last transfer window that closed on Monday. And it kind of really narrowed down the window that LA Galaxy, there may be other teams, but I think LA Galaxy is a front running team, and they may want Boca Juniors may want more closer to 20. LA Galaxy, I think they see that what happened with the pandemic, and they see that they also see there's no real interest from European clubs that could have signed Pavone on a transfer, and that didn't happen. What do you make of this whole Christian Pavone situation?
I think there's interest from European clubs, but I don't think there's interest to pay many millions for him, like the amount that Boca Junior wants. And I think that's the good thing that the Galaxy has in their favor, that they can offer more than the European clubs, and that might be the only way that he can come back. I don't think he's coming back, but what surprised me is that he didn't want to play for Boca Juniors. Uh, you know, it's hard to think about an Argentinian player that goes back to Argentina and they don't want to play for Boca Juniors.
They want to come back to the LA Galaxy, right? It's a crazy time that we're living in.
Yeah. It's crazy. But Pavon is also a player that really seems to be happy here in Los Angeles, that he was enjoying it. But obviously, of a player of his caliber, he should be playing in Europe. He shouldn't be playing in MLS. And even Zlatan said that. But he seemed happy here. He seemed like he was enjoying it, and hopefully for the Galaxy he can come back. But I don't know. I haven't paid close attention to the latest news on him. But it's just the pandemic times, like you said, it's making everything crazy. The more logic thing will be to play in Europe, but the big clubs are not they don't have deep pockets these days.
Yeah, and they haven't showed the entrance. I know there's, I think the LA Galaxy are really in a good position right now to, they've been in a good position, but I think now that the transfer window closed, it just made it more evident that Boca Juniors didn't really have that big of offers for him, and for what they're asking for. So it just makes it tricky because right now you're the LA Galaxy, you still got an open DP spot. The season doesn't start till April 3rd, 4th. So I think you still got about a month and a half, or 2 months actually, from today, 2 months, March for April. So you still got 2 months essentially. So I think the LA Galaxy still have more than enough time to get Christian Pavone. We know that Boca Juniors is a difficult team to negotiate, or else they would have had it done by December 21st or 31st.
They're experts
right?
in negotiating their players.
Yeah, and extending the
Yeah,
negotiations, extending it so long. I think with Minnesota United, it was like an 8-month thing that went back and forth and back and forth. But I just don't know that Christian Pavone, someone is willing now to pay more than what the LA Galaxy are offering.
yeah. Hopefully we can get him back. He's one of the he played the World Cup along Messi, and that's just a proof of how good he is. And he's the best player in the Galaxy these days. I hope he comes up. He returns.
Yeah. Now let's talk about you a little bit. Have you ever written something in the paper and then say a player? You don't have to say their name or anything like that. A player or coach, whether it bothered them or hey, you might have missed all the details or anything like that. Has that ever happened to you?
I'm trying to think. Maybe fans. Fans will definitely call you and leave you a message. These days the beautiful and not beautiful thing about the internet is that they tell you right away about your mistakes, and you can fix them. And in the internet, in websites, you can fix it. Before, when we used to have the print days, if you make a mistake, you get 200,000 copies of that mistake. So that was a lot harder to hide and fix. But these days, they tell you when you make a mistake and when people don't like some of the things that you write, but you can fix it, or you can explain what happened. But as far as players, no, not really. Haven't had those things. usually like the PR people will call you, but it's just minor things, minor details, not a big deal kind of thing.
They're like, hey, how come you're not writing about LA Galaxy or LAFC more?
Oh yeah,
Those
I
are the
know.
calls on. I was
I
like, why didn't you write about us this week? What happened, Edwin?
I used to get those calls, and I would say, when was the last time you had, Carlos Vela speak? When was the last time you had
Yes,
when was the
Edward.
last time you gave us a one-on-one?
Yes, Edward. Fight
You
for
know?
us.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And
Yes. That's
and I just,
exactly what I want to hear. That's exactly what I
I
want to hear.
I
It's a two-way
love,
street. Let's just put it
yeah,
out there. It's a two-way
yeah.
street.
I love how I like the Zoom calls, the media days, but I think we should be able to get a lot more than that. I think we should be able to get more one-on-ones just for our websites, because you know that in a Zoom call, what you get what you get that day is what 20 other people get, and we should be able to get more exclusive stuff, more proactive pitches, I think, from the teams.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And sometimes they limit it, right? They limit some of the zooms or they limit some the things, and I get it, but I sometimes I don't get it. It's like he only answered one question, like you know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah,
NBA doesn't do this. LeBron James will answer like 10 questions, and he's cool with
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's exactly, yeah, exactly.
I think that's the big. I'm glad you're feeling the same thing I'm feeling because I've been very vocal about it, and I know a couple other
Yeah, and
people.
and and you do hard work, because the questions that you ask are really interesting, and you're a lot of the times you're the first one to ask, and what people outside don't understand is that when you're in those media phone calls or media Zoom media days, you have to do your homework. You have to ask interesting stuff, or otherwise Bob Riley is gonna scream at you, and he's gonna uh, you know tell you what he thinks. So you have to do your homework, and it's not easy, and it takes time and work to prepare for those things. And I can tell that you prepare very well when you do those things. But we should be able to to get more stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Amen. I appreciate what you said because everybody's been feeling the same way you have. And I've been very vocal about that. It's just I think it just helps grow the game. It helps grow just the relationship between the media and the teams. And I think, and I hope they see it that way, because you're saying everything that I've said, and I'm glad a person that's been in the game as long as you have, is able to one address those things and talk about those things obviously on here. A lot of people listen to this podcast that are LAFC fans. This is an LA Galaxy podcast today, but like we got both people from both sides of the aisle that listen to this podcast, and you're addressing those things just validates what everybody else has been saying. And it makes it more of a point, right? When everybody's saying the same thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think there needs to be a little bit more accountability within the teams, you know, and I think if we all get behind it, if we all say this, on podcasts and stuff like that, I think eventually, players and stuff like that, they're going to be more open, and we should get more exclusives. We should be able to have more conversations because, I've learned just my short time here, just 3, 4 years covering the teams. It's hard to get information, and
yeah,
and not only is it hard, but you also got to make sure your information is credible because some people are going to be like, oh, that's not true, or where are you getting this information? And obviously you have a big platform where you write for the LA Times, so once you put something on the paper, millions and millions of people potentially could read it, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you understand the magnitude of what you're writing, and I'm also understanding that sometimes when I tweet something, I don't know what's going to blow up. Sometimes some tweets just blow up, sometimes don't others, and sometimes I get those calls, and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what it is. There's no other way to put it. Like try to, like, if you have other information when they come talk to me, let me know. I can put it out there. But if you don't, then this is what it is, right?
yeah. And also teams have to understand, and believe me, I used to do PR for MLS. I love MLS, and but I think that it just comes to like the things that we were talking before. It comes to realizing that we live in a city with how many professional teams? 12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many.
So
Yeah.
and media members, are scarce these days. They don't, we're not that many journalists or media people working in LA. So they have to understand that if Chicharito doesn't speak on Monday, probably Kershaw is going to speak on Monday, and probably Goff is going to speak with the Rams. And you only have so much space and so much room for things and hours in the day to work. So they should be able to accommodate those things, those exclusives. Even they like they don't have to be the big players, but they can be the exclusives that you're able to get exclusive content that nobody like the other people don't have.
Yeah, I'm with you, Edward. Just final thing. If you were an up and comer, Edward, you're like 18 years old, you're trying to get into, the media game. What's some advice that you would have to young Edward, or a young girl that wants to eventually work for the LA Times, or just wants to become a journalist? What's some of the advice you would have?
Well, just practice. Like the cliche says, practice makes perfect. But also, if you want to be in the media, a lot of people want to be there for the big events, and nobody wants to be for the smaller things. But I think that's when people appreciate your presence in those small events. Even when you're starting a website, a lot of young people have their own websites. The first challenge that they have is the access. They don't allow them in big games. So probably the best advice is to start attending the small events, start attending those events when like the big media outlets don't go, and that's when they're gonna appreciate your outlet, your website, your YouTube channel, whatever. And they're also going to appreciate your work, and they're going to notice your work, because when it's the MLS Cup final, they're not going to notice you that much. But when you are in a community event, when you're interviewing a not very famous player that might be famous in the future, that's when things are going to get noticed. And also that even if you don't see a lot of traffic, let's say in your website or in your channel, that there's always somebody watching, and probably that person is going to take you to another level and where you want to be. And to always be passionate, to always feel passionate about the things that you're doing, and there's I think there's a lot of gaining also in doing the things that you love. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being on. Let the people know where they can follow you and where they can reach you at.
In Twitter, it's E and then my last name Cauich, and on Instagram it's much easier, Mayan_Tiger. That's why I came
Mayan
up
Tiger,
with my
and also TikTok. I saw you
yeah,
on TikTok
also
too.
on TikTok. I'm pretty new. I'm still like trying to.
Hey, you got some followers there. I saw you following the other day. Okay, Mayan Tiger.
I was very skeptical of TikTok, but I think I'm getting the hang of it.
I haven't seen any dance videos yet.
No dancing videos or acting videos. No.
Not yet. Okay, no worries. But hey, I appreciate you being on, man. Hey, guys, if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to give this a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. You can also listen to this podcast on Spotify, or wherever you get your music. If you guys want to follow me, you guys can follow me at Gio Garcia LA on Twitter. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at LA Soccer Hub. For Edward, this is Gio.